Creativity, experience, and emotions will decide who wins in a fight. But that's not to say that's all there is to a fight in Jujutsu Kaisen. When it comes to having multiple options in a fight, Jujutsu Kaisen allows an insane amount of possibilities to allow any character a chance to win against an opponent. Especially since there are so many ways to fight. Of course, with that being said, we should start off simple. As I said before, emotions can help dictate a fight in this series. For instance, when Choso fights Yuji, his love for his brothers turns into hatred, and this gives Choso more cursed energy. This is possible because Choso hates Yuji, and the negative energy that comes from the negative emotions Choso is going through at this moment in time is giving Choso not only more endurance for attacks, but the mental strength to carry out his desire to kill Yuji. And this is all thanks to the negative emotion Choso is experiencing. With this expression of Choso's emotions, the overall atmosphere and opponent in this situation are affected. Yuji had begun to experience the negative emotion of fear because of the negative energy Choso had released. Choso's hatred gave him a desire to kill, and with Choso's desire to kill, Yuji began to fear death. This was all dictated by the negative emotion that caused this situation: hatred. Because of Choso's hatred, Yuji was afraid, and in this battle, Choso's hatred was stronger than Yuji's fear. This is because Yuji no longer feared death. Even if it means dying, I'm gonna take him down. I don't have to be the one to save Gojo Sensei. By accepting death and no longer fearing it, Yuji no longer had fear, and by no longer having fear, Yuji would not be experiencing a negative emotion. And without negative emotion, Yuji no longer had negative energy. While Choso's hatred did not dissipate, Choso won this fight because he hates Yuji. In the end, Choso determined that Itadori was the more severe threat. However, with that being said, negative emotions are not the only emotions that determine the outcome of fights either. The inexperienced fighter Choso didn't understand what happened, but by keeping his cool, he focused on manipulating the blood within his body. By controlling his emotions, Choso was able to adapt and take the momentum in his fight with Itadori, and by doing so, Choso had ended up controlling his self, which caused him to develop a new technique in the process. Choso had developed a new technique by controlling his emotions. This truly goes to show that how you feel can dictate how a fight will play out. The way a person feels in a given situation will tie into how they respond and adapt in a fight, which will ultimately affect the creativity of a fighter in a given scenario. For instance, while fighting Yuji, Mahito attacks from a distance. This is possible because Mahito processed the information in front of him, which is the distance that separated Mahito from Yuji in the first place. The distance between Mahito and Yuji had given Mahito the idea to attack Yuji from a distance, and with the intent to attack Yuji, Mahito subconsciously adapted to the distance that separated him and Yuji. But what exactly caused this? I need a purer, more inspired form to kill. I'll embody it. Mahito's desire to kill. With his desire to kill, Mahito took inspiration and allowed these feelings to change his body. Mahito embodied his desire to kill. Mahito's desire to kill, Mahito's feelings, had allowed him to attack Yuji from afar. This same instance parallels to another fight that took place in Shibuya. While attacking from afar, Choso had the same intention as Mahito, which would be to kill Yuji. And while being away from Yuji, At this moment, Choso would naturally attack Yuji due to his train of thought.
Yuji Itadori, my brother's deaths.
By thinking of his brother's deaths, this would cause Choso to feed off of the negative energy over the death of his brothers and kill Yuji. Choso's actions were inspired by his brother's deaths due to his feelings for them. At this moment, Choso's feelings are allowing him the opportunity to win in this fight, but others aren't so lucky. The way a person feels can also hold them back. In Megumi's case, during his battle against one of Sukuna's fingers, he no longer had confidence in himself, and by no longer having confidence, by feeling as if he couldn't do anything, Megumi had held himself back and prevented himself from winning fights that he would normally win. In order to fix this, Megumi imagined a future version of himself that had surpassed their limits, and by thinking and feeling as if he surpassed his limits, Megumi had affected his reality by freeing himself of any mental burdens, which allowed Megumi to put how he felt into his sorcery. Megumi had expressed himself. With all of these situations, with different fighters and their experiences all being influenced by their emotions, it's safe to say that how one feels can affect how one fights in Jujutsu Kaisen.